Welcome to this explainer on marketing, planning, and management. Ever wonder why some genuinely incredible products completely flop? Well, let's be honest, mediocre ones somehow build massive empires. Well, today we're talking about architecting growth. Think about it. Running a successful company isn't just about throwing a product out into the void and crossing your fingers. It's actually a lot like managing a super dynamic investment portfolio. You've got to constantly assess where you are right now, exactly where you want to be, and how to allocate your resources to get there. We're going to break down the exact frameworks that top organizations use to bridge the gap between their current reality and their ultimate goals. Let's get into it.
So, here is our blueprint for today. We're going to cover 4 key areas. First, the strategic planning process. Second, assessing growth opportunities. Third, 3 key planning activities. And finally, developing a value proposition.
All right, Section 1, the strategic planning process. Let's look at the high-level process. We really need to start with the macro view to understand how a company maps out its overarching direction. It all flows top-down. Everything kicks off at the very top with corporate planning, those big boardroom decisions. Imagine a massive entertainment company deciding, hey, we're pivoting entirely to streaming. Okay, once that broad direction is locked in, it cascades down into business unit planning. That would be like them creating a dedicated standalone streaming division. And then finally, that flows all the way down into offering planning, which is where a specific actual TV show is conceptualized. The main takeaway here, you literally cannot successfully plan that specific show without having that solid corporate foundation laid out first.
Moving right along to Section 2, assessing growth opportunities.
So this brings us to the central problem pretty much every ambitious organization is going to face: how to accelerate beyond their current trajectory. Think about a 5-year timeline. If you just maintain the status quo, your sales are going to follow a certain baseline trajectory. But you have a much higher target for where you actually want your sales to be. That massive empty space sitting right there in the middle, that is the strategic planning gap. And honestly, your primary job in marketing management is figuring out exactly how to fill that empty space.
To bridge that gap, companies basically have a strategic toolkit with 4 distinct growth paths they can deploy. We've got intensive growth, integrative growth, diversification growth, and finally, downsizing and divesting. Let's break each one of these down so we know exactly how they work.
Okay, path number 1 is intensive growth. This simply means looking inward to maximize the potential and the efficiency of the businesses you're already operating. Corporate management should absolutely review these opportunities first. Before looking outward for shiny new toys, you have to ask yourself, are we getting absolutely everything we can out of our current products and our current customer base? A lot of times, the most immediate, cost-effective growth comes from just optimizing what you already have. Always look in your own backyard before you go trying to buy the neighbor's house.
Now, if intensive growth isn't quite enough to fill that gap, the second path is integrative growth. This is where a company expands its footprint by absorbing other steps in its supply chain or maybe acquiring competitors within its existing industry. So think about a local coffee shop. If they buy a coffee bean farm in South America, they're integrating backward. If they buy the delivery fleet that ships those beans, that's integrating forward. And if they buy out a rival cafe across town, that is horizontal integration. It's really all about increasing sales and profits by owning a much larger slice of the ecosystem you're already playing in.
Then we have the third path, which is diversification. And this is the bold move. This means jumping into an entirely new, highly attractive industry. Say an emerging market is just booming, and your organization happens to have the exact right operational muscle and talent to succeed there. Well, you can bridge a massive chunk of your strategic planning gap by successfully pivoting outward into that new space.
The final path might actually sound a bit counterintuitive, especially since our whole goal is to increase sales. But much like pruning a tree, shedding tired, older businesses releases vital resources and cuts costs, which actually sparks new growth. Holding on to underperforming, outdated business units just drains your capital and totally saps your team's energy. By carefully downsizing, harvesting, or just completely divesting those old businesses, you free up the cash and the resources you desperately need to fund those intensive, integrative, or diversified growth strategies we were just talking about.
All right, let's pivot to Section 3, 3 key planning activities.
Now that we've got a handle on that broad corporate flow, we need to zoom in on the actual day-to-day execution. Corporate management has to anchor their strategy by nailing 3 foundational activities: defining the corporate mission, establishing specific strategic business units, and, this is crucial, assigning resources to those units. I mean, you could draw the most beautiful growth charts in the world, but without a clear why, deeply focused teams, and actual budget and talent, the whole plan is going to fail.
Let's actually slow down for a second on that first point. The really crucial thing to understand here is that a corporate mission isn't just some flashy marketing tagline. It's the long-term goal that provides the fundamental direction for literally everything the company does. As our source defines it, a mission is a clear, concise, and enduring statement of your core purpose. When you're sitting there trying to decide whether to pursue integrative growth or maybe divest an old business, that core mission is the compass you use to ensure those decisions actually align with the fundamental reasons your organization exists in the first place.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 4, Developing a Value Proposition.
So finally, we are zooming all the way down to the absolute micro level of execution. We've gone from the boardroom all the way down to the offering level, which is entirely about creating worth in the market. Now, a truly viable business model requires a dual focus. You have to deliver highly competitive customer value while simultaneously maintaining really attractive collaborator value for your business partners. Customer value basically hinges on how well your offering actually fulfills your target customer's needs. It's a calculation, right? It's the benefits they receive minus the costs they incur, especially when they stack you up against your competitors. But you can't just stop at the customer. Collaborator value is just as critical. This is the sum of the benefits and costs your offering creates for your business partners, your suppliers, your distributors, your agencies. It reflects how attractive it is to actually work with you. If you offer amazing customer value but absolutely terrible collaborator value, your supply chain is going to break down and all those grand growth strategies will completely stall out.
To wrap up this explainer, I really want you to reflect on your own business blueprint. What specific steps do you need to take to architect your future growth? Take a hard look at your own operations. What does your organization's strategic planning gap look like today? And out of those 4 paths we explored, intensive, integrative, diversification, or divesting, which combination are you going to choose to bridge that gap? By treating your business like a carefully managed portfolio, sticking to a strong corporate mission, and perfectly balancing that customer and collaborator value, you can strategically architect the growth your organization needs to truly thrive. Thanks for learning with me today, and keep building.